the big thing that he was talking about testing was this pizza stone's positioning. And kind of what we came to was, or at least what I suggested, is positioning this product, which is I'm trying to scroll down and find an actual product photo. It's this baking steel that you put in your oven. The idea being that you get like pizzeria quality pizza at home without, the oven, the pizza stone, all this other stuff. And he was wondering about price testing and the way that this page was positioned and still is to a large extent, it seems like. You hit the page, you get fun making pizza should be easy, should be simple, turn out great. Like that's what the product does. But the first thing that you see is this positioning against pizza stones, which to me, as someone who's like kind of a home cook, not really someone who's like sort of tangentially aware of what a pizza stone is, that seems very much like a budget product. So you're positioning this Pizzori, this baking steel, as sort of like the high budget premium alternative to something lower tier like a pizza stone. And if your battle is price testing, that can often be a hard sell because you're immediately putting that consumer in a position where they're equating your product with something that's way lower price. That you can get pizza stones at Target for 15, 20, $30. And this is a $89 or $99 product. If I can find, if there's a buy box on here. Yeah, $89. So that's kind of a jump. But if you switch this up to instead just take the pizza stone aspect of this away completely and position it as get pizzeria quality pizza without spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a pizza oven, all of a sudden that completely changes the consumer psychology around this, where you kind of have this hack to, I get the result without having to spend all the money. Like maybe you don't have room, maybe you live in an apartment. That kind of completely changes what this funnel could look like, I think. So I believe he was going to do an iteration on this where it was, more focused on like Pizzori versus pizza oven. Because I mean, these unis are, $500, $600. They go up to like over $1,000. So all of a sudden you're in this position where you're giving people the same result for much, much less. And especially when you're acquiring customers through paid media, you're just looking for a quick conversion. That can be really powerful. So that was my first suggestion with this whole page, is just change up the positioning, change up what the ads look like, what the content on the landing page looks like to be against the more expensive option instead of the more budget option. Aside from that, if I'm just going to do a very brief look at this from like a UX perspective and a CRO perspective, I do think that the headline's good. Homemade pizza should be attainable for everyone. I do think you could make these photos smaller and kind of place them 2 by 2 in a grid, make this sort of above the fold section, a little bit less of a long scroll. I would almost like turn this top section into an actual hero section where you're kind of jumping straight into right now, like multiple different points. And there's not a lot of focus above the fold here. So this headline with one image and then maybe a CTA button that scrolls you further down into the content and kind of like build out what that flow looks like. I think that would be a good test to run. And then you get into the value props, right? Like now they have a clear idea as soon as they hit the page, what the thing is, who it's for, what problem it solves. And then you can present, some of these benefits after that. Problem section I thought was great, but again, the positioning change I think would do a lot here. Honestly, you could probably just lose this section altogether, the pizza stone section. Disappointing contender. My other instinct with this is to shorten up the text a fair amount. I think this page could be a lot more skimmable where, there's multiple headlines, there's an eyebrow up here. It's kind of hard for me just to kind of briefly scroll down this page and get an idea of what each section is about. So if I could cut some of these paragraphs in half even, I think that would be really interesting to see if you could get like further scroll depth, more engagement. And I'm imagining because the buy box is so far down this page, there's probably not a ton of sessions who are getting all the way down there because I'm not seeing any like anchor links or CTA buttons or anything like that. So I think all in all, since Andrew's not in the call here, just to keep this page brief, I would do the positioning change, add a hero section, and then get into the value props. And I would shorten it up and add CTA buttons so people can, click on a button and get scrolled all the way down here to the buy box and get people into the purchase flow faster. So those are my thoughts. Kind of good. Do you have anything to add on top of that?
Yeah, I think basically supporting a lot of what you said. Like one of the things, even while you were trying to critique the page, right, it took you a while to figure out what the price was because you have to find how to get there. So adding more CTA buttons would definitely be helpful. And then also to support your point, right? Like the very first thing on the page, like the headline itself is homemade pizzas should be attainable for everyone. That almost supports that budget type of positioning as well, right? Like when you think about democratizing anything or making anything attainable for everyone, you think of making it cheap or low cost or really easy. $90 price point isn't necessarily, all that attainable, but it might be, again, positioning it more as an aspirational thing, right? Like delicious, stone oven quality pizzas should be easy for everyone rather than necessarily attainable, because you want to set them up to know that, hey, they're going to get a premium product here that might not come with a cheap price tag, but that's what the goal is. Like that's what they're trying to persuade them towards. I also, I tend to not be as worried about large amounts of text, but with that, I do agree it's not super scannable. So I would use much more like bolded text and use more kind of design elements to break it up and kind of draw attention to it. So like with the problem right here that Ryan's at, the is what's bolded, right? So your attention goes to the word the or the whatever. That's not really what you're trying to draw attention to, right? So I would almost, like Ryan said, if you change the positioning over to competing against a pizza oven, switch all this stuff out for the pizza oven, and then you can get rid of the section below it. That's currently the pizza oven, because I think this one's designed better. But then you can make exactly like you have here. My upgrade was the Uni pizza oven and loved it. I made great pizza for 10 people on my first day, but maybe you make that bold. Maybe you have another similar headline here that says, I love this pizza oven, but it costs a lot and it broke or something. There's probably other issues with these pizza ovens that create a lot of hassle for people versus a steel, stone type of thing. I also don't think it's funny. Last week there was a chef guy that came into our apartment and like put on a pizza show for people here. And I was actually shocked to realize that pizza stones are like horrible. He was like, I don't know how they like infiltrated America, but they're terrible. That's the worst way you can cook a pizza. And that was news to me. And I'm also not like I'm a home cook, I guess, as well. But I was convinced that pizza stones are awesome. So I don't necessarily think that you have to like throw that out, but you need to find a way probably earlier in the funnel, like maybe even with the ads, to position it as a premium product first, so that you can kind of weed out the people who are looking for a budget solution. And then you can let people, like for me, I like the cost isn't really what I'm worried about as much. It's I want the quality. And I thought that pizza stones are giving me that quality. They're not, right? And so if you can maybe get a quote like that, maybe even use this chef's quote that said, pizza stones are the worst things that you can cook with. Everyone should throw them out. Maybe use that as positioning. But to Ryan's point, you want to make sure that you're not setting up a situation where they could think that they're going to get a $30 solution, but they're getting closer to $100. Yeah, beyond that, I agree with everything else Ryan said. Just kind of switching up the order of stuff, adding some more CTAs. I think that will make way the difference. And the only thing that I'm kind of seeing might be missing, or it's not, it's not maybe as prominent as it could be, is if you can go into like the research, I guess is what you're trying to do it with, go into the process a little bit more, kind of help justify why is it $90, right? Like, is the steel that it's made out of like super premium? Is the process or the research, was that years in the making? What is it that makes it worth the $90 for people? If you can just call that out more, that would be great. And then last thing is just font size. Like these little titles here, unique design, powerful heat transfer, they're small. And if you're going for a $90 price point, you're going to get people who are probably minimum of around 30 looking at these. Probably a lot of people, I could be wrong, but my guess would be a lot of people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. Font size is going to matter, especially the higher up on that age scale.